She rescued her drunk boss that night, the morning after. He remembered every kiss. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to tonight's story and to our main character. The rain came down in silver sheets over downtown Chicago, soaking the neon reflections of a Friday night gone too far. Outside a luxury hotel, a black sedan idled, headlights cutting through the mist. Inside, the laughter of executives echoed down the marble hallway as they stumbled out of a corporate celebration. And somewhere between the elevators and the exit, Lena Morales, the quiet assistant from accounting, caught sight of her boss. Ethan Ward, the youngest regional director in the company, usually sharp and composed, was now clearly drunk. His tie hung loose, his shirt collar stained with whiskey. Two men from a rival department had him cornered near the parking entrance, phones raised, laughing. "Come on, Mr. Ward," one of them sneered. "Give us a quote for Monday's gossip board." Lena froze. She could walk away. It was not her business. But something in her stomach twisted. The look on Ethan's face was not arrogance tonight. It was exhaustion. Before she could think twice, she pushed through the crowd. "Stop filming him," she said, voice trembling but firm. "He has had enough." The men turned, surprised. "And who are you, sweetheart?" one jeered. Lena stepped closer, shielding Ethan with her body. "Someone who still has a little dignity left. You should try it." Ethan tried to speak but only mumbled her name, barely conscious. When one of the men grabbed his arm again, Lena shoved him back. The phone hit the ground, shattering. For a second, silence cut through the rain. Then she took Ethan's coat from his hand, a heavy gray wool jacket, and wrapped it around his shoulders. "Come on," she whispered, slipping his arm over hers. "Let's get you home before you make tomorrow's headlines." She half carried, half guided him through the storm, her shoes filling with cold water as they crossed the parking lot. His breath smelled of scotch, his head lolled against her shoulder. Taxis sped past without stopping, and the thunder rolled like an angry drum above them. When they finally reached her small apartment a few blocks away, Lena fumbled for her keys with numb fingers. She had no choice. He could not even stand on his own. She helped him inside, sat him carefully on the couch, and fetched a towel. Ethan stirred, mumbling something she could barely understand. "You stayed just until you sober up," she said softly, kneeling beside him. His eyes fluttered closed, the lines on his face softening. For a moment she studied him. The powerful man everyone feared at the office now looked almost boyish, defenseless. She sighed, removing his shoes, then draped a blanket over him. Her reflection in the window showed a woman drenched, exhausted, but oddly calm. Before turning off the light, she wrote a small note and slipped it into the pocket of his coat. "I just made sure you got home safe. Do not overthink it. Lena." A.M. Outside, the rain slowed to a whisper. She sat for a long while, watching it trace the glass, unaware that the night's small act of kindness would change both of their lives forever. Because when morning came, and Ethan Ward opened his eyes, he remembered everything. Not the chaos, not the laughter, but the warmth of her hands and the faint taste of a kiss that never really happened. Morning light filtered weakly through the blinds of Lena's small apartment. The rain had stopped, leaving the air heavy with the scent of wet asphalt. A low groan came from the couch. Ethan Ward blinked, his head pounding, his throat dry as dust. He squinted at the unfamiliar ceiling, then at the blanket that smelled faintly of lavender and soap. Where was he? He sat up slowly, every muscle protesting. His gray coat was draped neatly over a chair. On the coffee table, a glass of water and 2 aspirin waited beside a note written in tidy handwriting. "You are safe. You drank too much. I just helped you get home. Do not worry. Lena." Lena. The name hit him like a jolt of lightning. His assistant. Quiet, polite, always on time. He glanced down at his shirt buttons wrong, shoes missing, dignity in pieces. A hazy memory flickered behind his eyes. Her voice in the rain, the soft press of her hand steadying him, the warmth of her breath when he fell against her shoulder. He pressed a palm to his forehead. "Did I do something stupid?" A knock sounded from the kitchen door. Lena stepped in, her hair pulled back, still damp from the night before, holding 2 paper cups of coffee. She froze when she saw him awake. "Oh, you are up." "I am trying to be," he said hoarsely. "What happened last night?" A duded. "You nearly collapsed outside the hotel," she answered carefully. "Some people were filming you. I brought you here. You should be fine now." Ethan frowned. "You brought me here? Alone?" Her jaw tightened. "Would you rather I had left you on the sidewalk?" The sharpness in her tone startled him. For the first time, he noticed how tired she looked, dark circles under her eyes, clothes still damp. Shame washed through him. "No. I am sorry, you did the right thing." Lena nodded, setting the coffee down. "You can leave whenever you feel steady. The door is not locked." She turned to go, but his voice stopped her. "Lena, thank you." She hesitated, then said quietly, "You are welcome, Mr. Ward," and slipped out the door. For several minutes he just sat there, the note trembling in his hand. The woman he barely noticed at work had risked her job and reputation for him. Yet behind the pounding in his head, another thought lingered, the faint memory of her lips, close enough to feel. He tried to shake it off. It was nothing, just a dream. Later that morning, he returned to his penthouse overlooking the city. The skyline glowed sharp and perfect, but inside he felt unsettled. His phone buzzed with unread messages, meetings, reminders. But one security alert caught his eye, a motion recording from the hotel parking lot camera, time-stamped the previous night. He played it. There she was, Lena stepping between him and 2 men, standing firm despite the rain. He saw her take his coat, wrap it around him, guide him away, and he saw the others laughing, recording, mocking. His jaw tightened. By noon, gossip had already spread through the office. Whispers trailed behind Lena when she walked in, eyes staring, lips curling into smirks. Someone had uploaded a blurry photo of him asleep on her couch, taken from who knew where. The caption read, "Looks like Mr. Ward had quite the after-party." Lena kept her head down, pretending not to hear. But when Human Resources summoned her that afternoon, her hands shook. "You are being placed under investigation," they said coldly. "There are rumors of inappropriate conduct." She tried to explain, but no one wanted to listen. Across the city, Ethan stared at the video again and again, his anger building with every frame. She had saved him, and now she was being punished for it. He stood, grabbed his coat, and for the first time that day, he knew exactly what he had to do. The boardroom was silent when Ethan Ward walked in. The executive team froze mid-sentence, sensing the storm in his eyes. He carried a folder under one arm, his gray coat over the other, the same one Lena had wrapped around him that night. "Before we start," he said, his voice calm but sharp enough to cut glass, "I have something to show you." He placed a tablet on the table and pressed play. The security footage filled the screen. Lena stepping between him and 2 men, rain pouring down, shielding him from their cameras, guiding him away. Gasps echoed around the room. "This," Ethan said, pointing at the screen, "is the woman you are accusing of misconduct." No one dared speak. "She saved me from humiliation," he continued, "while the rest of you were too busy recording. She deserves respect, not punishment." He closed the tablet, meeting every gaze in the room. "Effective immediately, the investigation against Lena Morales is terminated, and if I hear another rumor, someone else will be out of a job. A play." Without waiting for a reply, he left the room. Downstairs, Lena sat outside Human Resources, clutching a paper of suspension terms. Her stomach twisted as Ethan approached. He stopped in front of her, his tone softer now. "It is over," he said. "You are cleared. You should not have gone through that." Lena looked up, stunned. "You did that?" "I should have done it sooner," he admitted. "You saved my reputation. I should have protected yours." She exhaled shakily, relief and exhaustion mixing. "Thank you." Ethan handed her the gray coat. "You left this behind." Lena hesitated before taking it. The faint scent of his cologne lingered in the fabric, mixed with rain. Tucked inside the pocket was her note, folded, smooth, and now creased at the edges. He smiled faintly. "I kept it. I wanted to remember that not everyone walks away when things get ugly. Even Rasajan." Something in his voice broke through her guarded calm. "I did not do it for credit," she said. "I did it because it was right." "I know," he replied quietly. "That is what makes it matter." The next week, Ethan called her into his office again, this time for something different. We are launching a corporate responsibility program, he explained. Training on ethics, workplace respect, safety. I want you to lead it. Me? She asked, startled. I am not qualified for that. You are exactly qualified, he said, because you acted when no one else would. For a moment she searched his expression, looking for a trace of pity, but found only sincerity. Slowly she nodded. All right, I will try. Good, he said. And call me Ethan. I think we have earned first names. A faint blush touched her cheeks. All right, Ethan. And officers. That evening, as she walked out of the building, the city lights shimmered against the wet streets. She looked at the tall glass tower behind her, the same place where she had almost lost everything, and smiled faintly. Across town, Ethan stood by his office window, watching her from 30 floors above. The memory of that rain-soaked night replayed in his mind the way she had looked at him without judgment, the steadiness of her voice when everyone else mocked. He reached into his pocket, unfolded her note once more, and read the same simple words. I just made sure you got home safe. Do not overthink it. But he could not help it. Because every time he read that line, his heart did exactly what she told him not to do. It overthought and remembered everything. 2 weeks later, the company cafeteria was quieter than usual. Lena sat at a corner table with her laptop open, reviewing training slides for the new ethics program. She had just finished her first workshop, and the room still buzzed faintly with the energy of people clapping for her. For the first time in months, she felt something close to peace. Mind if I join you? She looked up. Ethan Ward stood beside her with 2 coffees in hand. He looked more relaxed than she had ever seen him, his sleeves rolled up, tie loosened. She smiled politely. Of course, Mr. Ward. He gave her a look that made her stop. Ethan, he corrected gently. All right, she said, a bit flustered. Ethan. He set the coffee in front of her. You were great in there. Confident. People listened. She gave a small laugh. I was terrified. My hands were shaking the entire time. I did not notice, he said. All I saw was someone leading with conviction. It's Tenny Danival. For a moment their eyes met, and the air between them shifted. The hum of conversation faded. It was just the two of them. The echo of rain long gone but somehow still lingering. Lena cleared her throat, looking down at her screen. Thank you, but I should get back to work. Ethan nodded but did not move. You know, he said after a pause, I used to think leadership was about being the loudest voice in the room. You proved me wrong. She looked up again, caught off guard by his tone. What do you mean? Kindness, he said simply. You led with it when I had none left. Her chest tightened slightly, not from embarrassment but from understanding. Sometimes kindness is the only thing we can afford, she replied softly. He smiled at that, a real, unguarded smile that made him look younger, almost vulnerable. Later that evening, Lena worked late in the office. The floors were mostly empty, lights dimmed to a soft amber glow. She was gathering her things when a power flicker startled her, plunging the hallway into darkness. A second later, the backup lights kicked in, faint and ghostly. She sighed and laughed quietly to herself. Then a familiar voice came from the doorway. Still working this late? She turned to see Ethan leaning against the wall, holding 2 paper cups of takeout soup. I thought you might not have eaten, he said. Lena blinked in surprise. You brought me dinner? I owed you at least that, he said. Besides, I make a terrible boss if my best program lead collapses from hunger. She smiled and gestured for him to sit. They ate in companionable silence, the quiet hum of the city below filling the pauses. After a while, Ethan said, Do you remember what I told you in the boardroom? That you saved my reputation? She nodded. I left something out, he continued. You saved more than that. That night, when you found me, I was on the edge not just of the parking lot, but of quitting everything. I was tired of the fakeness, the endless pressure. You reminded me that decency still exists. Lena looked at him, her spoon halfway to her lips. You are giving me too much credit. He shook his head. Not enough. The room went quiet again. Outside, a light rain began to fall, tapping gently against the windows. Ethan glanced at it and smiled faintly. It is raining again, he murmured. Fitting, isn't it? Lena followed his gaze. The sound was soft, rhythmic, almost comforting now. She spoke quietly, almost to herself. That night felt like a disaster. I did not think it would lead to this. He met her eyes. Neither did I, but I am glad it did. A dead in an 07. The rain continued, steady and unhurried, as two people who once met in a storm finally sat together in calm. The next morning, Lena walked into the office with a rare lightness in her step. The new program had gained attention across departments, and Ethan had personally invited her to present it at the company's annual charity gala that weekend. It was a huge honor, and a terrifying one. She spent the next few days buried in preparation. Between meetings and drafts, she barely noticed Ethan watching her from his glass office, a quiet smile playing at the corner of his mouth. He had not seen anyone bring that much integrity into this place in years. By Friday evening, the grand ballroom was glowing with chandeliers and soft gold light. The city skyline stretched behind the floor-to-ceiling windows, glittering like a sea of stars. Lena arrived early, wearing a simple navy dress that she had borrowed from a friend. She stood near the stage, clutching her notes, heart pounding. Ethan appeared beside her. "You look professional," he said almost too quickly. She laughed softly. "That is the safest compliment you could have chosen." He smiled. "I am trying to stay out of trouble." When her name was announced, Lena stepped onto the stage. Her voice trembled at first but soon steadied as she spoke about empathy in the workplace, about standing up for what is right even when no one else will. The audience listened in complete silence. Ethan watched from the front row, pride flickering in his chest. Every word she spoke felt like a mirror held to his own mistakes. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. She caught his gaze across the lights, and in that second, they both knew this was more than a speech. It was redemption. After the event, Lena slipped out to the terrace to breathe. The night air was cool, the city buzzing below. She leaned on the railing, staring at the skyline when Ethan joined her. "You were incredible," he said quietly. "You made them feel something." "I only told the truth," she replied. "People forget it still matters." He nodded. "That is why I want you to keep leading this initiative, not as a side project, but as part of our core values." She looked at him, surprised. "That is a big responsibility." "You have already been doing it," he said. "I just want everyone to see it." For a moment they stood in silence, wind brushing through her hair. Then Ethan reached into his pocket and unfolded her old note, the same one from the night of the storm. "I kept this," he said. "Every time I think about that night, I remember these words. Do not overthink it." But I did. I have thought about it every day. Lena stared at the note, her heart catching in her chest. "Ethan," he took a breath. "I do not want to cross any lines. You are free to tell me to stop, but I need you to know you changed me. I do not look at people or leadership the same way anymore." For a long moment she said nothing. The city lights flickered in her eyes. Finally she whispered, "I did not mean to change anything. I just did what I thought was right." "That is exactly why it mattered," he said. The tension between them was quiet, unspoken, but undeniable. Somewhere below, a car horn blared, snapping them both back to reality. Lena stepped back slightly, breaking the moment. "You should get some rest, Ethan. Big day tomorrow." He nodded, his gaze lingering for a second longer. "Good night, Lena." "Good night." It's problem and an overaction. As he walked away, she turned toward the skyline once more, her fingers brushing the edge of her dress, her heart caught between fear and something dangerously close to hope. Inside, the ballroom lights dimmed, but one truth burned quietly between them: the night that began with a storm was far from over. The weekend passed in a blur of headlines and praise. Lena's speech from the gala had gone viral on the company's social media, earning her a flood of messages from strangers thanking her for her courage. The attention made her uneasy, but it also filled her with quiet pride. For the first time, she felt seen for something that came from her heart, not from luck or pity. On Monday morning, she arrived at work early, hoping to avoid the rush. The elevator doors opened to an unexpected sight: people clapping. Ethan stood near the reception desk, smiling as the staff congratulated her. "You are trending," he said as she stepped out. "Apparently integrity is making a comeback." She laughed shyly. "Do not exaggerate. I just talked about doing the right thing." "That is exactly what people need to hear," he replied. "Come on. There is something I want to show you." He led her to the top floor, to a corner office she had never entered before. Inside, sunlight spilled through tall windows, reflecting off a framed quote hanging on the wall. She froze when she saw it. It was her own handwriting, the note she had written that night. "I just made sure you got home safe. Do not overthink it." Beneath it, a small brass plaque read, "Kindness is never forgotten." Her breath caught. You framed it? Ethan nodded. It reminded me what leadership should mean. Every person who walks in here will see it before they see me. For a moment, she did not know what to say. Her throat tightened with emotion. You did not have to do that. I wanted to, he said simply. It is part of our story whether you like it or not. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. A shared understanding, fragile but real. Then Ethan's phone buzzed, breaking the silence. He glanced at the screen and frowned. I have to take this. A few board members are not happy about the new budget for your program. She crossed her arms. Let me talk to them. It is my project. He hesitated, clearly worried. They can be difficult. So can I, she said, her voice steady. Let me try. Later that afternoon, Lena stood in the conference room surrounded by executives twice her age. They questioned her numbers, her plan, even her position in the company. But she stood her ground, explaining every point with calm precision. Ethan watched quietly from the back, pride welling in his chest. The woman who once apologized for speaking too much now commanded a room full of people who used to ignore her. When the meeting ended, the board approved the project unanimously. As the others left, Ethan approached her. You were remarkable, he said. She exhaled, finally letting herself smile. I was terrified. You hit it well. For a long moment they stood there in the empty room, the hum of the air conditioner filling the silence. Then Ethan said quietly, There is a dinner for the new program partners next week. Would you join me? Lena hesitated, uncertain of his tone. As in, professionally? He smiled a little. Professionally, yes. And maybe, not entirely. She blinked, surprised by his honesty. Ethan, you do not need to feel obligated because of that night. This is not obligation, he said firmly. I just want to spend time with the person who reminded me what matters. Her pulse quickened. She looked down at her notes, pretending to straighten them. We will see, she said softly. He nodded, a faint grin tugging at his lips. That is not a no. It is not a yes either. As she walked away, he called after her. Then I will take my chances. Lena smiled as the elevator doors closed, the reflection of the framed quote glinting behind her. For the first time in a long while, hope did not feel like a risk, it felt like a beginning. The following week, the air inside the company buzzed with tension. The gala video had drawn massive attention from the media, and not everyone appreciated it. A few senior executives whispered about favoritism, about a personal connection between Lena and Ethan. The rumors spread like wildfire, twisting the truth into something ugly. By midweek, Lena began to notice the stares. Conversations stopped when she entered the break room. Her inbox filled with anonymous messages, some mocking, others cruel. She tried to ignore them, but the weight grew heavier each day. That Thursday morning, while she was preparing presentation notes in the office lounge, two colleagues passed by, their voices low but sharp. Guess being a hero has its perks, one of them muttered. Yeah, the other laughed. Sleeping your way to a promotion is one of them. Lena froze. Her pen slipped from her hand, hitting the table. For a second, she could not breathe. When she finally turned, they had already walked away, pretending not to notice her. Her eyes burned, but she refused to cry, not here, not now. Instead, she gathered her papers and left quietly. Later that afternoon, the situation worsened. Someone uploaded a manipulated photo online, a blurry image that made it look as if Ethan and Lena were holding hands at the gala terrace. Within hours, it reached the company's gossip channels. Ethan's assistant rushed into his office, pale. Sir, you should see this. Ethan scrolled through the comments, anger rising in his chest. Who posted this? We do not know yet, she said. But people are saying it came from inside the company. He stood abruptly, grabbing his coat. Where is Lena? Human Resources called her in, the assistant said. They are reopening the investigation. The words made his stomach twist. He moved fast, his footsteps echoing through the hall. When he reached the conference room, Lena sat alone across from two HR officers, her hands clenched in her lap. This is not fair, she said quietly. That photo is fake. I have done nothing wrong. Odor. Sacks. One officer replied coolly. Until we can verify that, we need you to take a temporary leave of absence. Ethan pushed open the door before she could respond. That will not be necessary. The officers turned, startled. Mr. Ward. Save it, he said, his tone sharp. I know exactly who is behind this. The footage from the security logs already points to one of your staff members. He set a printed report on the table. And this investigation? It ends right now. The room went silent. Lena stared at him, wide-eyed. You should not have done that, she whispered. They will think. I do not care what they think, he interrupted. I care about the truth. The HR team left in a hurry, muttering apologies. When they were gone, Lena exhaled shakily. You just made yourself a target. I have been one before, he said quietly. But I will not let you take the fall for my mistakes. Duin. Rester from Porton back too. Her voice softened. You cannot protect me from everything, Ethan. He stepped closer. Maybe not, but I will not stand by while people tear you apart. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The distance between them was small, the air heavy with words neither dared to say. Finally, Lena broke the silence. You should not risk your career for me. He met her eyes. I am not risking it, I am choosing it. There is a difference. She stared at him, searching for any trace of insincerity. There was none. As he left the room, she sank back in her chair, torn between gratitude and fear. Outside the glass wall, the city lights shimmered like fractured stars, beautiful, fragile, and fleeting. Somewhere deep inside, Lena knew that everything was about to change again. But this time, it would not be a scandal that defined them, it would be what they did next. The next morning, headlines spread across every business feed. CEO Ethan Ward defends employee amid scandal. The article twisted the story, suggesting favoritism, implying romance. But buried under the noise was one undeniable truth: he had stood up for her. At the office, tension hung like a storm cloud. The board demanded an emergency meeting, and Ethan walked into it prepared for battle. Across town, Lena stayed home on forced leave, pacing the floor of her small apartment. Every vibration of her phone made her heart race. She hated being powerless, while people questioned both their integrity and her character. Inside the boardroom, the atmosphere was ruthless. One of the older executives leaned forward, his tone clipped. You compromise this company's image, Mr. Ward. The press believes you are protecting her for personal reasons. Ethan met their eyes calmly. The press believes what you let them believe. Lena Morales did nothing wrong. She saved me when 2 employees tried to humiliate me. She built the ethics program that is now improving our public trust rating by 20%. If that is what you call a liability, then maybe you should redefine leadership. Murmurs rippled through the room. He continued, voice steady and deliberate. We are not firing integrity for the sake of appearances. Not under my watch. By the time he finished, the silence was deafening. No one dared to challenge him. That evening, Lena received a knock on her door. When she opened it, Ethan stood there, rain glistening on his shoulders, as if the city itself had decided to remind them of the night everything began. I thought you were in meetings all day, she said, surprised. I was, he replied. It is over. They dropped the case, deleted the posts, and suspended the people behind the rumors. Relief flickered across her face. Thank God. But why are you here? Because there is something I did not say in there, he said, stepping closer. They were right about one thing. Lena frowned. About what? That it was personal. Her breath caught. He took a slow breath, searching her face. It started as gratitude, then respect, then something I could not explain away anymore. Ethan, she whispered, uncertain. I am not asking for anything, he said quickly. You deserve your peace. I just needed you to know that none of this was a game to me. For a moment, neither moved. The sound of rain filled the space between them, soft, familiar, and impossibly tender. Then Lena stepped aside. You should come in before you catch a cold. Inside, she handed him a towel, their hands brushing. The brief touch sent a shiver up her spine. Ethan looked around the small apartment, the same place where he had woken up that first morning. Everything felt exactly the same, yet completely different. I never thanked you properly, he said quietly. For that night, she gave a small, tired smile. You did, many times. Not like this. He pulled a small frame from his coat pocket. Inside was a photo taken at the gala, not the fake one, but a real one captured by the event photographer. It showed Lena on stage, speaking, the lights soft behind her. I had this printed, he said, to remind me that courage looks like you. Her eyes filled, but she blinked the tears away. You always say the right thing when it matters most. It is easy, he said softly. When the truth is all that is left, The rain outside grew steadier. Ethan looked at her for a long moment before whispering, "That night you saved me. I was too drunk to remember much. But I remember this the way your hand felt against my face. It was the only real thing in a life full of noise." Lena's voice trembled. "You should forget it." He shook his head. "I tried. I could not." The thunder rolled in the distance, echoing through the city. Neither of them spoke again. But in that silence, something broke open. Not chaos this time, but clarity. For the first time since the storm began, they were no longer trapped in misunderstanding. They were finally standing in the same light, knowing exactly what it meant to choose one another. The city skyline shimmered with light as the rain finally began to fade. Lena stood by the window, watching droplets chase one another down the glass. Ethan was still there, quiet, leaning against the edge of the table, his coat draped over a chair. For a long while they said nothing. The silence was not awkward anymore. It was peaceful. "You should get some rest," she said softly. "You have done enough damage control for one lifetime." He smiled faintly. "You always tell me what I should do." "Someone has to," she teased. He stepped closer, his voice lower now. "What if, just this once, I do what I want instead?" She looked up, uncertain. "And what is that?" "To stop pretending I do not care," he said. "Lena, I have spent months trying to be the man I am supposed to be. Professional, composed, untouchable. But the truth is, you are the only reason I want to be better at all." Her breath caught. The words felt too big for the room, too honest to hide behind. "Ethan, you cannot say things like that. Not after everything." He nodded. "I know. That is why I am not asking for anything. I just needed to tell you the truth." Lena's eyes softened. "You have a strange way of saying thank you." He laughed quietly, then reached into his pocket. From it, he pulled a small silver key attached to a tag. "This belongs to the new foundation office," he said. "The one you built. It opens the room where we framed your note." She took the key carefully. "You want me to keep this?" "I want you to lead it," he said. "It was your idea, your courage. Let the world see what kindness can build." Her voice trembled. "You really believe in this?" "I believe in you," he replied. The words hung in the air between them, steady and real. She turned the key in her hand, the metal catching the light. "Then I guess I have no excuse," she said softly. "I will do it." He smiled. "Good. That is all I wanted to hear. A difference." As he moved to leave, she stopped him. "Ethan." He turned, and before she could lose her nerve, she added, "You are not the only one who remembers that night." He froze. She stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "You said you remembered my hand on your face. I remember something too, the way you looked at me before you passed out. You were scared, but not of falling. You were scared of being alone." His throat tightened. "And now?" She smiled faintly. "Now, neither of us is." For a moment he just stood there, the city lights flickering behind her, the rain turning into mist outside. Then he took a slow step forward. "May I?" he asked quietly. She nodded. He reached up, brushing a damp strand of hair from her cheek. His hand lingered, warm and certain. Then he kissed her gently, deliberately, with the clarity of someone who had already lost once and refused to lose again. When they finally pulled apart, she laughed softly. "So this is how the story ends?" Ethan smiled, his forehead resting against hers. "No," he said. "This is how it finally begins." A few weeks later, the company launched the Safe Hands initiative, led by Lena Morales. At the unveiling ceremony, Ethan stood beside her as she cut the ribbon, the crowd erupting into applause. Behind them, on the wall of the new office, hung a framed copy of the note that had started it all. "I just made sure you got home safe. Do not overthink it." And this time, neither of them did. Because what began as one act of kindness had become something far stronger. Not a rescue, not a rumor, but a promise kept in every heartbeat that followed. Kindness, after all, is never forgotten.